Hello, and welcome to the James Ruggles Show. Today we have Nolan Stolz, music composer who has composed the Route 66 Suite for full orchestra and also the Lincoln Highway Suite. Nolan tells us his music background and also of his travels, especially down Route 66, and some of his different ideals about music and arts. We hope you enjoy our show today. And remember to watch our future videos of the James Ruggles Show and of our music concerts for Arts in 66 in Oklahoma. Hello, yes, we're here with Nolan Stolz, composer, and he's an outstanding musician. He's composed the Route 66 Suite, and before that the Lincoln Highway Suite. Tell us a little bit about your musical background.
Sure, yeah. I started as a performer, drummer, and composition came later in college. And yeah, I had a theory teacher that said, "Oh, have you thought about being a composer?" You know, looking at my theory assignments. I said, oh no, I don't even like classical music. Why would I want to write it? Because at that point, I was a jazz musician. I was playing rock and jazz. I had no interest in classical at the time. But that was because I was listening to the wrong music. I had been exposed to the wrong music. And then once I heard things like Stravinsky, Mahler, Schoenberg, I was like, oh, I love this. And so then that's what really got me into classical composition. And so that just kind of took off from there. And then I always bring back my jazz and rock background into the classical music. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I over the years as a violinist, I know I picked up some swing music and a little bit of all the genres associated with fiddle playing. You know, whether it be Celtic or Broadway music, or my parents were classical. And so I ended up fitting into that. My brothers and sisters, they grew up in the hippie era, so they were into the cool thing, the new cool thing. And so I was exposed to things like what you're talking about, the free jazz that was coming about in the late 60s, early 70s. And of course, I found that a little harder to fit in with violin playing, at least at first. And so I, tended towards some of the swing. And so you did some performing around, doing the drumming. Did you do what kind of jazz bands did you play in?
It was a lot. It was in Las Vegas, and it was mostly cocktail jazz, playing for they call them casuals, or maybe like a corporate dinner or something, and then you just kind of play brushes and play softly. So like for money, that was the best sort of jazz gig there. But I also had some original jazz groups that I was in that we did concerts and things as well.
Yeah. Well, you grew up in Las Vegas. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
What a life. Wow, amazing. Yeah.
Some musicals as well, I guess that. Some as well. Yeah. But I didn't really do the show thing. I wanted to at first. That was my goal when I went to college. I'm like, oh, I want to play in a show. I want to be playing the Las Vegas Strip, playing in a lounge band or in a show. But then I realized they're playing the same music exactly the same way every single night. And I'm a creative soul, and I'm like, that's not really what I do. I want to improv when I want to sort of come up with ideas as a composer, but play them on drums, and that doesn't really fit in with a cover band or a show. So my direction would completely opposite of what I started out to do. Kind
of like Neil Peart trying to fit in with Broadway or something.
see, with Neil, it's like everything is. Well, his approach is opposite of mine. Even though Neil Peart is like probably one of my favorite drummers, he's like a composer, which I am, but that's not the way I play drums. So when he's playing, everything is exactly worked out. He executes it, so it's completely composed out. Every little drum fill, every little thing that is completely worked out. I don't think that way as a drummer. I think more of a like a big band drummer. Like here are the main accents.
Okay, so
fill,
Gene Krupa or something like that.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah. So I would picture, like, if I'm going to play something like that, I would picture, like, some accents, and I'm going to set up the horns or something. But I might do it slightly different each time. Mm-hmm. But with Neil Peart, we're talking about the band Rush, by the way. Everything is completely worked out. Which, by the way, I'm going to go see. There's a Rush movie at the Circle Cinema tomorrow night.
Oh, that'd be cool. Circle Cinema in Tulsa, folks, has been here for many, many years. And, going on Route 66, you can check that out. There's a lot of artsy type of films and nostalgic films that they show there. It's an old-time theater attraction at Tulsa.
Back to the 30s, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those several old theaters I've been visiting on my Route 66 trek.
I love old theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So concerning jazz, I've listened to the Lincoln Highway Suite, and I hear some of the rhythms going on that are motor rhythms, but at the same time sound like improvisation too.
I write fairly improvisatory, just the way I come up with ideas. Like, it's more of a gesture, and then I'll fill in the blanks from there. I might even come up with an idea at the drum set, like, I want to do this sort of thing, and boom. Gesturally speaking.
So tell us about you've been getting inspiration to write the Route 66 Suite, and before that you wrote the Lincoln Highway Suite. And tell us how you got from there to here, the Lincoln Highway Suite and writing the Route 66 Suite.
Yeah.
And it's for orchestra, by the way, full orchestra.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I wrote the Lincoln Highway Suite in 2013. So that was the 100-year anniversary of when the Lincoln Highway came about. And so I had driven parts of it, and here and there, and then I took a year off from teaching and wrote this piece. Had it done in 2013. In fact, I think a few orchestras even played some of the movements before the whole thing was done, because they were going to premiere it in 2013 for the 100-year anniversary.
That's good.
And so I wanted to write a follow-up, because I had some good success with that piece, performance-wise, and the studio recording, which you've heard, Brno Philharmonic, it's fantastic recording, and I'm like, okay, I want to write a follow-up piece. I want to do another historic highway. Route 66 is the obvious choice. It turns 100 years old in 2026. So rather than writing it in 2026, I want to make sure it's ready to be performed by 2026. So if I can get it into the hands of conductors in 24, they have a couple of years to think about it, work with the orchestra board, or however the process is in artistic planning, have a couple of years. So yeah, right now I'm just trying to get inspiration for it. I'm not going to try to write it this year. I'm spending too much time driving and planning and researching.
Or, sketches.
Yeah, sketches at most. So then I'll spend the next 2 years after that actually writing it, editing, get it done. So in, say, the 23-24 season, it's ready for a conductor for the 25-26 season. That way they can
excellent
premiere it in the spring, perhaps.
So what are some of the highlights of your... You've taken us, been given a sabbatical from, the college where you teach, and it's to do this, to go on Route 66 and actually get inspiration for writing the Route 66 Suite for full orchestra. And how has your trip been?
Oh, amazing. It's been a trip of a lifetime, and I'm only 9 weeks into it out of 13 months. Because I've got the 9-month academic year, and then I've got the summer before and the summer after. So I actually started back in July, and I'll go all through the academic year through next summer.
So what are some of the places you've been, and some of your highlights so far?
Highlights. Roy's Motel and Cafe or gas station. It's in Amboy, California.
Yeah.
Okay. ghost town essentially, and really it's just a gas station. It's not really a cafe, and they don't have the motel anymore. They have the motel lobby, and as usual, I pull up and get into small talk with someone, and one of the girls was working there. She said, "Oh, do you want to see the motel lobby?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is beautiful, Googie architecture.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, it's great." And that sign is a classic, right? And so we go in the lobby, and there's a piano. She's like, "Do you want to play the piano?" I'm like, "Yeah." So playing the piano in the lobby of the motel of Roy's Motel, like, so just some of the highlights I would say is people hear about the project, they get excited about it, and show me something that they don't normally show everyone.
Yeah.
You know, I've been let on private property to drive on bits of Route 66 that aren't on public access, they're just on their ranch land or farmland or something.
I had the unique opportunity. I stayed in Guthrie, Oklahoma, in the old hotel there, and the owner said, "Well, hey, I've been refurbishing the original capital of the Oklahoma territorial capital, and I'd like to give you a tour of that." And he showed me all the works, and they were not completed at all, believe me. But I saw all these printing presses. Because that's where the territorial newspaper was, the very first territorial newspaper. And he showed me what he was doing. He showed me the balcony where the speech was given, where the first governor, territorial governor, and the governor of Oklahoma, a lot of people don't know that, but it was originally there and not really in Oklahoma City. And so I got to see, things. There's these things that you normally don't hear about that you get to, experience, and it sounds like you're experiencing.
Oh, yeah. I probably could come up with another 10 if I really thought about it.
Well, you've got, a whole bunch of months that what are you looking forward to, some of the different places?
Well, let's see. Well, so I live in South Carolina, so I came up from the southeast. So I actually started in East St. Louis and went down to LA and back. And that took 9 weeks. So I haven't even done Illinois yet, other than just the east side of St. Louis. So I'm looking forward to doing Illinois, up to Chicago and back.
Yeah, Joliet.
Yeah, all that. So Lincoln Highway crosses right through Joliet.
Exactly, so right there, just to the northwest. Yeah. A town of many churches, and of course the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, I had a Blues Brothers experience the other day. Remember that scene? They go to this bar. It's kind of a rough bar, and they're like, "Oh, what kind of music do you usually have?" And she's like, "Oh, we got both kinds, country and western." so I check into this. It's great. I check into my hotel in Amarillo. It's a brand new hotel, just opened. I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's in a 1926 building, right on Route 66, 6th Street in Amarillo, and they've got a speakeasy in the basement. Actual speakeasy from back in the day. And
cool.
And so I go to the concierge at the hotel, and I ask her, I said, and she's like only like 23, but she's got this bolo tie, and she's looking very Texas, right? And I said, "Oh, where can I find some live music?" She's like, "Oh, right here, just in the basement at the speakeasy." I'm like, "Oh, cool. So what kind of music?" I'm thinking, maybe old-timey jazz or something, some 20s jazz. And she just kind of looks at me kind of matter-of-factly, "Country." Oh, sorry. I forgot I was in Texas. Of course, country at a speakeasy. Why would it be anything else? And it was wonderful. And I thought to myself, yeah, of course, I should be listening to country in a speakeasy. Because part of my trip is to get the local culture. Like, what is it about this town that I want to learn? And, of course, he has to play that tune... Amarillo by morning,
Amarillo by morning.
Yeah. He has to do that. And so when he did, I'm like, oh yeah, this is perfect. And I thought, and it was then I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't be disappointed that I can hear jazz a lot of places.
Yeah.
I'm in Amarillo, Texas. I should be listening to live country music.
Like Winslow, listening to the Eagles.
Right. Yeah. There's always some sort of musical connection, and I don't want to be like, it has to be classical music. because I mean that's what I'm going to be writing. I'm still
Yeah.
writing an orchestra piece, but I'm reflecting the road, and it's not like I'm going to try to stick in country licks or something just for the sake of it. But I want to experience all the different kinds of music, country and Western.
Yeah, well, that's really what classical culture is a melding of the many elements of the humanities and everything that's going on. It's put into frozen still life. And you can do that with a classical piece. You can you take bits and pieces to where people understand. You speak to your audience, and so tell us a little more about your sabbatical. Would you say?
Well, yeah. So how that works is that you can choose to take a full year or a half year. Well, you have to apply. You have to have a whole proposal, and it's certainly not a vacation. It's a research sabbatical. Like, so what is your project? So I had to come up with a project. What am I going to be doing? Why can't you do that in your normal day-to-day work? Why can't so my idea was like, well, I can't just drive up and down Route 66 and teach all my classes. Like, so the idea is like, okay, here's a project that requires me 100% of my time away from the institution. And so came up with the idea. They approved it. They awarded it. And so I elected to take the full year because I wanted that long amount of time to really get to know all the towns. Especially if I took a semester, people would be emailing me, oh, in spring we got this coming up, just let me focus for a while. So and so I just my day is just research and driving and meeting people and experiencing the road.
Well, the Route 66 orchestral suite. What how classical pieces are divided up into different sections or different movements. What are some examples of some of the movements or parts of the piece that you're putting together?
That's a great question. And so I came in thinking I would write another 5-movement piece, about 5 minutes each movement. So I'm thinking about a 25, similar length to the Lincoln Highway Suite. I'm discovering it's going to be much longer because I'm going to do each movement topic based. Whereas, so the Lincoln Highway Suite, if you remember, each movement is a different region. You had like from the Hudson is New York and New Jersey, Meadows Heartland, and then you had the Prairie View, okay, and then you had the mountains, and then the California movement. I'm not doing a geographic division of Route 66. I'm doing what I'm calling, I guess, topic based. So I've got like a movement I'm going to call Neon Dreams. So it's going to be inspired by all the neon throughout the road, right? I've got another one called 26 Gas Stations, which is inspired by, I'm using the title from this 26 Gasoline Stations, a photography book by Ed Ruscha from 1963. I'm going to call another one Among the Trees, about all these abandoned buildings and road that is just being overtaken by nature again. It's just hidden back among the trees. A ghost town movement I'm going to call 66 Ghost Towns. I've got one inspired by theaters, not just old theaters, but drive-ins as well. So I'm going to think about the evolution of theaters from like vaudeville and concert halls as well. However the space is used. So I'm visiting these old places, going to movies there, going to concerts. I'm going to go to a Motown concert at the Coleman this Saturday. So yeah, I'm trying to hear music and watch movies in these spaces. Like another reason why I'm going to the Rush movie tomorrow. I'm hearing a concert in an old theater. It's just this connection of arts and entertainment. So I was going to call that The Show Must Go On. And then I was talking to one of the workers at the Circle today. He's like, what about the show Will Go On? I thought, oh, yeah. Because because what I'm trying to say musically more is like, no matter what happens, it's still going to happen. Like maybe a certain theater closes, but another one is going to open. Like something, it's always this evolution. I was talking to the owner of a drive-in theater. He was like, oh, Disney is killing the theaters right now. But I'm like, well, maybe, but there's always going to be a subculture of people that want to go to the drive-in for the drive-in experience. Not because it's cheap, not because of this, but because they want the drive-in experience.
Yeah. People forget that people want to go along with their feelings about something, and nostalgia. That reminds me when I was little, and it seems like everybody kind of comes around to that sometime in their lifetime, and they may do it, be in that phase for 30 years of their life, So anyway, well, concerning the arts, what are some of your goals and dreams concerning the arts on Route 66, do you think?
Well, I guess the goal would be to orchestras along Route 66 to perform at least one movement, if not the entire suite. So that'd be something, a personal goal. I'm also going to make a concert band version, which I did with the Lincoln Highway Suite, by the way, because a lot of, there's not really any professional concert bands. Of course you have your military bands. That's about the only rule. You have a lot of volunteer community bands, but as far as professional groups, professional orchestra, right? So that's the main goal, is to have the orchestras. But I want to have this concert band version so like college bands can perform, and maybe some community bands as well. Because a town along 66 might have a band but not an orchestra. Same thing with a lot of small colleges too. They might not have an orchestra, but they'll have a band. So I just like to see music making along, when you say arts along 66, I just love the fact that I'm seeing someone, even if it's just playing guitar and singing at a bar on 66. It's music making, and there's all these art galleries, some art museums. I went to the Oklahoma City's Contemporary Art Museum about a month ago or 2 months ago or something. But yeah, I love supporting all arts, not just music.
And Route 66 is something that has put together from the past the different arts in a way to kind of keep it going. There's so much to draw from. In a way, Route 66 is like a long museum.
Oh yeah. Long outdoor museum.
Yeah.
Take it at your own pace.
Yes.
Self-guided tour, right?
So the arts and humanities and music, is being restored. The old and the new. There are new groups coming about, which I see, on the Route 66 Facebook pages, which shows some of these new bands and groups, which provides more fodder for classical. Classical is really based on folk music and art song. Whether it be art song or folk song. You think of the Italian operas, which are the songs sung on the streets in Italy. Same concept.
I was in Amarillo and I noticed they have, I think it was called Chamber Music Amarillo, and their offices and rehearsal space or something was right on 66. I thought,
really?
That's interesting. I'll have to give them a call and see what they're up to.
Yeah, my father taught at the Amarillo Conservatory back in the early 1950s.
Oh, where was that?
And it's disappeared. I've looked everywhere, and it's no longer in existence. But I've known a couple of people who have gone to that conservatory, back in the 50s or 60s, and I have yet to find some recent research that'd be interesting. I'm sure someone, perhaps on 66, will be able to dig up this information. But, so much to explore.
Yeah, I mentioned the evolution of the movie theaters. I've noticed an evolution of buildings. Like I've found several buildings that used to be an opera house, and then they turned it into a movie theater, and then now it's a retail space or something. Yeah. But it's just interesting to see that evolution from opera house and into a movie theater.
And it'll go back, like the Cain's Ballroom in Tulsa, was dance, and even a house of ill repute for a little while. But it went back to you know, its wonderful roots of, you know, supporting music acts and world-class acts. So we sure appreciate you being on our show.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
You bet. And looking forward to seeing, you know, this Route 66 suite come about, and hearing more, seeing more of your journeys. You know, it's really exciting, and see your photographs. And appreciate you again.
Great, thank you.
You bet. Thank you for watching the James Ruggles Show with guest Nolan Stolz. On Sunday, October 3rd at 3 o'clock at Harvard Avenue Christian Church in Tulsa, we'll be having an Arts and 66 in Oklahoma concert featuring Native American composer from Oklahoma, Jared Impechachacha Tate. We'll also be having Joseph Glod Band, Kathy Venable, vocalist, pianist, myself on violin, and Franklin Burt, vocalist, guitarist. Tune in the future for the James Ruggles Show videos, and also check out our website and future concerts of the Arts in 66 in Oklahoma. Have a great day.